Good morning. Do you know, when I retired at the end of last year, I'd kind of been thinking about retiring for about 6 months. So if you're thinking of retiring or you're on the countdown to retiring, this video is going to be good for you, because when I was considering retirement, there were definitely a few questions that I should have asked myself and reflected on and found answers to before I made the decision that I didn't think about until afterwards. And I want to share those questions with you today so that hopefully it'll give you a chance to find some answers, consider some things that might impact you when you've reached your retirement, just so that you don't make the same mistakes that I did. Hi there, I'm Bev. I retired, as I say, at the beginning of this year, end of last year. I never quite know exactly when it went to classic. Let's call it the 1st of January 2025. And I'm 59, so it was a slightly early retirement for me. I'd been working for myself for the last 8 years. Prior to that, I'd worked for the Ministry of Defence for 32 years. So a long career with the MOD before starting my own business. And I was ready. I was really, really ready to retire. I was tired. I felt a bit burnt out. I just felt like life was too short to be spending it constantly working after I'd worked all my life, and I was ready to just wind things down and slow things down. And if I'm honest, I didn't really think it would have any challenges. Obviously, there are financial challenges because my income was stopping, but I did have a small income to keep me ticking over. And I'm in a marriage, so we support one another. So financially, that was taken care of. What I hadn't really thought through was some of the emotional and mindset challenges that I might come up against, which I did come up against. So anyway, let me start with the first question. I've got 7 questions that it would be useful, I think, to ask yourself before you actually pull the plug and make the final decision to retire. So if you want, feel free to grab a notebook or a journal and jot these questions down so you remember them. I'll come back to this video and go back over them when you've got a bit of time to really sit down and do some reflection, because I think you deserve to take that time for yourself. Anyway, okay, first question. What are you retiring to? Now, when I made the decision to retire, I think I was thinking of all the things I was retiring from. I was retiring from running my business. I was retiring from deadlines. I was retiring from business goals and business planning and marketing and selling and all of the things that you do as a small business. I was retiring from the pressure, from the stress, from the sleepless nights. I was retiring from lots of things that I wanted to get away from, but I never really stopped to consider what I was retiring to. What did I want instead? I knew what I didn't want, but I never really stopped and asked myself, so if that's what you don't want, what is it you do want? And I think a great question to reflect on is, what am I retiring to? What do you want a day in your retirement to look like? Now, obviously, you're retired, so the days are going to look different. You don't have those sort of necessarily that structure of a working day. But what would your ideal day look like? I'm just about to go and meet a friend for lunch. And if I'm honest, this is what I kind of in my head imagined I'd be doing a lot of. But actually, I don't like doing this too often. I wouldn't be comfortable meeting friends every day. I like my own time too much. So whilst meeting a friend for lunch is something that I really enjoy doing in retirement, it's not necessarily my ideal day. And I never stopped to think about what that ideal day would look like. I should have done. I just didn't give it that much thought. So have a think. What do you want your ideal day to look like? What do you want to retire to? Are you thinking you might want to volunteer? Are you wanting to start a new hobby? Are you wanting to do a little bit of sort of a side hustle from your retirement? I think nowadays retirement doesn't mean not earning money or not working. It just means making the choice to not work or to not have to work, I think is where for me that retirement comes in, because I'm still doing a little bit of work, and actually that is what I want to retire to. I want to retire to making a little bit of money now and again, doing what I've been doing, but without all the stress and the hassle. So think about, what is it you want to retire to? I think it's such an important question. Question 2 is, who are you now without your job title or your business title? For example, I had my own limited company, therefore effectively I was a company director, I was a business owner. Before that, I was an employee, I was a manager, I was a colleague. I think it's really important to think, who are you? Who do you want to be now that you're retired? I mentioned this briefly in my last video about labels and titles, and I made the decision not to say I am retired, but to say I have retired. So who am I? What is my identity now that I am no longer working, now that I don't have that title of business owner or employee or manager? Who am I? What is my title? And actually, for me, I don't really want to have a title anymore. I just want to be Bev. That's who I am. I'm Bev Thorogood, and I have started retirement. So have a think about who you are without the title, because a lot of people find that a real struggle. I don't think I did find it a challenge to know who I was without the job title, but I did find it difficult to know who I am as a retired person. What is my title? And I think it's a good question to reflect on. And a great way to kind of answer this question is, what do you want to be able to say to somebody when they say to you, what do you do? Or, what do you do for a living? Think about it, because you will get asked. And if you're uncomfortable saying, I've retired, or if you struggle to kind of define who you are now, you don't want to wait until somebody asks you and then find yourself sort of floundering a bit. So it's a great question to ask yourself, who are you, or who am I without my job title? Another question to ask yourself is, how do you want to feel every day? Not so much what do you want to do, but how do you want to feel? Do you want to feel calm? Do you want to feel adventurous? Do you want to feel busy? Just because I didn't want to be busy doesn't mean that you won't want to have busyness in your life once you're retired. I know lots of people who've retired who have very busy lives and love it. Do you want to feel sociable? Do you want to feel useful and inspired? Do you want to feel like you're inspiring other people? So that feeling, it might sound a bit woo-woo, but I think sometimes we forget that how we feel is such a big part of who we are every single day. So, think about, do you want to feel a level of excitement all of the time? Like, oh, what's next? Or do you want to feel a sense of calm and slowing down? Because it's your choice. It is absolutely your choice, but you might want to just take a bit of time to think about it. Or it might be that you want a balance. I want to have a retirement that allows a certain amount of time for excitement and adventure, but I also want to balance that with a certain amount of time to rest, relax, read a book, take a slow walk on your own, whatever it might be for you. But it's worth asking the question, how do I want to feel each day in my retirement? Another question to ask yourself, is, what is your relationship with time? Do you find that if you're not filling your time, you feel like you're missing something? Are you someone who thrives with a routine and structure, or do you prefer to just go with the flow? Now, for me, I don't particularly like routine and structure, and I think that was one of the things I was trying to move away from when I retired. And I quite quickly learned that although I love the idea of just going with the flow, when I'm not traveling or having actually something planned for the day, I don't go with the flow very well. I go with the flow better when I'm traveling. When I'm at home, if I don't have some sort of structure, I tend to drift, and I end up feeling at the end of the day like I've had a wasted day. And the whole purpose of me retiring early was because I felt that time was too precious to be throwing it away on things that, that weren't making me happy. But just having no structure and drifting through the day doesn't really make me feel happy either. So for me, whilst I think about kind of my relationship with time, I don't like to feel time pressured. But I've definitely found I need some time structure, and that might be something you need to consider as well. If you need routine, how are you going to maintain some semblance of structure and routine in your day that still fits with how you want to feel and how you want to spend your retirement days? I think a good question, a sort of supplementary question here is, when you're doing nothing, do you feel like you are wasting time or that you are usefully using your time? Because there's no right or wrong here. It's just our perception of time. And if doing nothing for you is a real sense of useful time because it's helping you to have time to reflect or just, to go slow and chill out, and that feels comfortable for you, that is great. That's something that feels good for you in relation to time. If you feel like doing nothing is a waste of time, that's a really good indicator that maybe you're going to want to find things to make you feel like you're using your time more wisely. Question 5, who will you spend your time with? Now, if you're retiring with a partner and you're both retiring at the same time, one thing you might want to consider is, how are you going to get along if you are in each other's pockets 24/7? And it might feel, oh, brilliant, we're going to have lots of time together. But if you've never spent a huge amount of time together, that may well throw up some issues for you. Not insurmountable ones, hopefully, but certainly ones that you might want to think about. Think about, are you an introvert or an extrovert? If you're extrovert and you like social interaction, but a lot of your social interaction has been wrapped up in your business or your work, and you're stepping away from that, how are you going to fill that social void that you need as an extrovert? If you're an introvert, on the other hand, how are you going to ensure that you get the time that you need if you potentially are spending a lot of time with other people or another person, I should say, if you're in a relationship? How will you maintain friendships if they're important to you? I don't have a massive friendship circle in as much as I don't have lots of friends who come together regularly as a social group. I do have lots of individual friends who I'm more than happy to maintain contact with. There are certainly people who I've wanted to let go of as I've gone into retirement, not for any other reason than I don't think we'd have anything really in common other than work or business. But there are certain friends who I know I still want to keep in touch with. But I've had to have a think about how much time do I want to spend with those with people. As I've said already, I don't really want to have every day filled with going for lunch with friends, because that doesn't work for me, but it might work for you. So have a think about, who will you spend your time with and how often? What's your plan of action going to be for staying in touch with people, meeting up with people? How frequently, how regularly do you want that to happen? Do you want to meet in person, or are you more than happy just to say, let's have a phone call every couple of weeks, or jump on a Zoom call or FaceTime or whatever? Think about it, because whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, I think it's something that you need to consider. It's certainly something that I didn't give enough consideration to. This is a bit of a deep one, but question 6 is, what unfinished business do you need to conclude before you can move into your retirement? Is there any emotional baggage that you're carrying around that you need to let go of? Because when you're in your retirement and you have less going on in your life, it gives you more time to think. And if part of that thinking process is ruminating or going over past issues, regrets, any kind of emotion that feels like it's a burden, what do you need to do to get closure on that and let it go? Because you don't want your retired years being tarnished by unfinished business. Equally, maybe it's not something that you need to kind of find closure on, but maybe it's a project that you've been thinking about, maybe downsizing or clearing out the loft, or writing a book, or whatever it might be. What have you always perhaps wanted to do that you want to focus on? You want to get it done and out of the way so that you can, put a tick in the box next to that one and move on. Because I see retirement as a new, fresh start. And if there's old baggage or old business hanging around that you need to end or finish or close, I think that lead up to retirement is a great time to think about, well, if, for example, if you've always wanted to write a book, it could be that retirement is the perfect time to do it, or it may be that it doesn't seem quite so relevant now. Do you want to pursue it, or do you want to shelve it? It's a really good time to reflect on those things. And then the final question, and it's a biggie, is what legacy do you want to leave? And I'm not talking about massive, massive legacy, but what do you want to be known for? What do you want people to say about you at your eulogy? I think I want my eulogy to read, she continued to be kind. She continued to love adventure. She continued to love travel. She continued to love being with her family. That's the legacy I want to leave. Maybe yours is something very different. There's no right or wrong here, but it is something maybe you want to think about. Anyway, let me know. How do those questions feel? If you do spend a bit of time reflecting on them, and I hope you will, let me know if you found them useful, if you found them helpful. Maybe I've missed a question or two that you would have added to the list. Please share them in the comments, because it'll help me and it'll also help other people who read those comments. Enjoy the lead up and the planning for your retirement, and I hope it's everything you want it to be. If you've enjoyed this, please consider leaving me a like and a comment, and maybe hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and I'll talk to you all again very soon. Take care.